Lamar Jackson is the type of player every franchise dreams of having, but now a major question is starting to surround the Ravens. Is his future in Baltimore really guaranteed? Looking at the situation, I see a negotiation that could shape the direction of this team for years to come. The Ravens want to keep their biggest star, but Lamar also knows exactly how valuable he is. And with so many questions surrounding this potential new contract, there's one thing I want to show you. The next steps in this story could completely change the future of this franchise. Stay with me until the end because there are a lot more details behind this situation than most people realize. If you've been following me for a while, you know I don't like to overreact when it comes to the NFL. But when I look at this situation, I honestly have a hard time imagining the Baltimore Ravens building their future without Lamar Jackson. According to Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, the franchise is willing to explore a contract extension that could keep the quarterback in Baltimore for many years. When a team starts thinking about a commitment of this size, it's not only looking at the next season, it's deciding who will be the face of the organization for years ahead. And honestly, it's easy to understand why. Lamar Jackson has already won 2 MVP awards, completely changed the identity of the Ravens offense, and remains one of the most dangerous players in the NFL whenever the ball is in his hands. Very few players force an entire defense to change its game plan before the matchup even begins. In my opinion, Lamar is one of those rare athletes who makes an entire franchise stronger simply by being on the roster. Another thing that caught my attention was the timing of this information. Baltimore is entering a new era with Jesse Minter as the head coach and Declan Doyle leading the offense. When a new coaching staff takes over a team, they usually evaluate everything before making major decisions. That's why the interest in extending Lamar's partnership with the Ravens sends a very clear message. It's almost like Baltimore is saying, we want to build this entire project around you. And when an organization makes that kind of move, it shows complete confidence in its franchise quarterback. But there's still one important piece missing from this story. The Ravens might want Lamar for another 5, 6, or even 7 years. However, an extension of this size only happens if both sides reach the same conclusion. And this is where the conversation gets even more interesting. Baltimore appears ready to make a major investment, but nobody knows if Lamar Jackson is feeling the same urgency to put pen to paper. And that uncertainty could completely change the direction of these negotiations. Despite all the Ravens' interest in building a long-term deal, there is still one major issue hanging over this negotiation. Nobody knows if both sides are actually close to reaching an agreement. And I'll be honest with you, when a contract extension involves a player like Lamar Jackson, these conversations are never simple. We're talking about one of the biggest names in the NFL, a player who understands his value and knows that whatever deal he signs can impact the rest of his career. The biggest question appears to be the details of this potential contract. How much money will Lamar ask for? How many years does he want to secure? And even more importantly, how much of that contract does he want fully guaranteed? Those answers are still unknown publicly. What we do know is that elite quarterbacks usually reset the market every time they sign a new deal, and Lamar has enough reasons to believe he deserves to be among the highest paid players in the league. At the same time, there is another detail that makes this situation even more complicated. In May, Lamar Jackson was asked about staying in Baltimore, and his answer was direct, absolutely. When I hear a statement like that, it's clear the desire to remain with the Ravens is there. But loving a city and a franchise is one thing. Finding a contract that satisfies everyone involved is something completely different. The NFL is filled with stories of players who wanted to stay with their teams, but ended up involved in contract battles that lasted for months or even years. That's why I believe the real battle isn't about whether Lamar wants to remain a Raven. The challenge is about the numbers, the guarantees, and how big of a commitment both sides are willing to make. And while those answers remain unclear, the speculation continues to grow. But there's another detail that could completely change the direction of this story. Lamar Jackson might not be in a hurry to sign a new deal right now. And once you understand why, this entire situation starts to look very different. When most fans hear that a player received a massive contract offer, the immediate reaction is usually, why hasn't he signed yet? But Lamar Jackson's situation could be much more strategic than it appears. Some analysts believe he has no reason to rush, and that waiting could actually be the best move to increase his value on the market. Think about this for a second. Lamar still has 2 seasons remaining on his current contract. That means he will continue earning an extremely high salary while watching the market around him continue to change. And there's a pattern we see across the NFL. Almost every elite quarterback who waits eventually watches another player sign a record-breaking deal before him. When that happens, the market rises again. If Lamar believes his value will keep increasing, waiting could become a smart business decision. I have to admit, this theory makes a lot of sense. Lamar has already proven multiple times that he can perform at an MVP level. If he delivers another great season or takes the Ravens even deeper into the playoffs, his position at the negotiating table becomes even stronger. In that scenario, a contract offer that looks massive today could look much smaller 1 or 2 years from now. That's why some insiders believe Lamar could be willing to bet on himself one more time. But this strategy also opens a door to something that could be extremely appealing for Lamar, a situation that very few elite players ever get to experience during their careers. The opportunity to enter the open market without restrictions and negotiate with any NFL franchise interested in acquiring him. And when you look at the situation from that perspective, it becomes easier to understand why the Ravens might want to solve this before that possibility gets closer. There is one detail in Lamar Jackson's contract that completely changes this conversation. Unlike many NFL players, Lamar has a clause that prevents the Ravens from using the franchise tag to keep him with the team after his current deal expires. Put simply, when his contract ends, Baltimore won't have the same level of control it normally has over a superstar player. According to Albert Breer, the idea of reaching free agency in 2028 at 31 years old could be very attractive for Lamar, and I understand why. Imagine entering the market as one of the most talented quarterbacks in football, with the freedom to hear offers from every franchise looking for a true leader under center. We're talking about a situation that could create a massive bidding war between teams desperate to find their next franchise quarterback. If that happens, Lamar would have something very few quarterbacks ever experienced during the prime years of their careers: complete control over his future. He could evaluate which team offers the best football situation, which city fits his lifestyle, which coaching staff he trusts the most, and of course, which franchise is willing to offer the biggest contract. When a player reaches that level of freedom, the decision becomes about much more than money. It becomes about controlling the direction of his entire career. And this is where the Ravens face their biggest challenge. It's not enough to convince Lamar that he matters to the franchise. He already knows that. Baltimore has to convince him that signing an extension now is better than exploring all the possibilities that could appear in a few years. But there is another factor that could make any player rethink the strategy immediately.
If you're enjoying this breakdown, smash that like button to help the purple flock grow.
Every time an athlete decides to wait for a bigger contract in the future, there's one question that needs to be answered. What happens if something goes wrong along the way? This is a part of the story many fans overlook. Betting on yourself can lead to a massive reward, but it also comes with enormous risks. And with Lamar Jackson, we're talking about a player whose biggest strength is his ability to create explosive plays with his legs. If Lamar chooses not to sign an extension now, he is trusting that he will remain healthy and productive over the next few seasons. It sounds simple when we say it like that, but the NFL is an extremely physical sport. One serious injury could completely change the direction of a contract negotiation. We have already seen players lose tens of millions of dollars because injuries happened before they secured a new deal. At the same time, I can also understand Lamar's perspective. If he believes he hasn't reached his maximum market value yet, accepting an offer today could mean leaving a huge amount of money on the table. Players at this level think about the long term. They know one contract can determine their financial security for the rest of their lives. That's why every single detail is carefully considered before making a decision of this magnitude. One thing I can guarantee, neither side is going to rush this decision. The Ravens know what they have in Lamar Jackson. Lamar knows what he brings to the table. And as both sides continue analyzing every detail, the pressure only increases. Because every season without a new contract brings Lamar closer to an opportunity that could completely change his career. And if that moment arrives, Baltimore might discover that keeping a superstar is much harder than finding one. Lamar Jackson remains the most important piece of the Ravens' entire project, and this negotiation shows the challenge Baltimore has in front of them. The franchise wants to keep its quarterback for many years, but also needs to understand the plans of a player who knows his value across the NFL. In my opinion, this is a decision that could define not only Lamar's future, but also the direction the Ravens take over the next several seasons. What makes the situation so interesting is that both sides have strong reasons to take their time. Baltimore wants stability and wants to continue building around one of the best quarterbacks in football. Lamar, meanwhile, has the opportunity to choose the right moment to make a decision that could impact his entire career. I believe this battle of interests will make every conversation between the player and the franchise even more important. Now, I want to hear your opinion. Do you think Lamar Jackson should sign a contract extension with the Ravens during this offseason, or should he wait and negotiate a new deal in the future? Leave your comment because I want to know how Ravens fans are viewing the situation. And remember, when a team finds a special quarterback, every decision can change the history of a franchise.
And if you're a true Ravens fan and love keeping up with everything happening around the team, don't leave this video without sharing it with a friend who's just as passionate. They're definitely going to enjoy this. See those videos on your screen right now? I picked the first one especially for you, and the other is recommended by YouTube. Go check them out, and I'll see you in the next video.